Good afternoon, UNCW Seahawks, and welcome to Teal TV. My name is Kyle Huffman, and on this evening's segment, we're going to be discussing an up-and-coming author, Eric Ries. He's a very well-known Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and he's being recognized for his new book, The Lean Startup. Surprisingly, Eric Ries' book publishing started when he was just in high school with a book called Black Art of Java Game Programming. He then went on to be a 2001 Yale University graduate with a degree in computer science. While at Yale, he began his entrepreneurial career as the co-founder of Catalyst Recruiting, an online forum for university students to network with potential employers. During this time, Ries was also on the advisory board for 2 startup incubators and a venture fund in New Haven, Connecticut. He for a short time took a leave of absence from his undergraduate studies to pursue his newly founded company. However, due to lack of business experience and the burst of the dot-com bubble, Catalyst Recruiting folded shortly thereafter. Ries is quoted saying that he was lucky the company failed so soon and that he could do it during this leave of absence. He then returned to Yale to complete his undergraduate degree. A very exclusive interview we have with the author Eric Ries with one of our very own investigative reporters, Derek Dion. Derek, to you.
How are you doing, UNCW? This is Derek Dion live with Eric Ries. How are you doing today, Eric?
Oh, I'm doing very well, Derek. Thank you for asking.
Can you tell us a little about your experiences about being an entrepreneur?
Well, actually, I've had a lot of experiences as an entrepreneur. I would say that they mostly involve failing and then having some success, founding a company called InView.
All right.
Then what happened was, at a certain point, I was being asked to give advice to other startups, venture capitalists, and really just to be a part of the Silicon Valley. And what I discovered is that when I described my experience with all the crazy stuff we did at InView, people really wanted to hear about it, and I thought that that was really important.
Your book, The Lean Startup, has been a huge success. What do you think a few of the main points that people can take away are?
Well, Derek, of course I want all of our readers to still buy my book, so I can't give away everything, but I will talk about a few of my favorite points. First, I'd like to say that it's important you realize you need to experiment early with your ideas. This will save you money and, more importantly, time. And that brings us to our next point, which is called a pivot. A pivot is when you rethink your ideas and you tweak them to test any new hypothesis you may have. And it's very important that at this stage you can be very adaptable.
Yeah, I read in your book, pivot happens as you try to find new breakthroughs and new ways to change your business while adapting to the people. Early on in the book you mentioned a leap of faith assumptions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Derek, what I mean when I say a leap of faith assumption, I mainly like to say that you sometimes just have to take that leap of faith. You have to hope that the customers will actually use your product. The best example of this that I can think of would be the iPod. Did Steve Jobs know most people were going to pay so much money for their music? Well, no, he didn't, but look at where it helped him land.
Yeah, for sure. That's a crazy point. I never thought of it that way. What is a quote that you think has been important for some of your success early on, and what are the consulting steps for various startups?
Well, one of my favorite quotes to tell people when I am advising startups is that the customers are out there. They're not in the boardroom. And that just means that analyzing and planning can only get you so far. You really need to launch your product and see how it fares in the actual marketplace.
When people hear the term lean startup, and you think of the bootstrapping and bare bones entrepreneur in his basement, what do you want people to imagine?
Yeah, I'm really trying to get away from that image of the guy in his basement. This is really more professional than that. This book is more about a methodology to bring existing business and startups a way to trim their costs and become more efficient. So let's talk about what I like to call the MVP. This is known as the minimum viable product. When you are first launching your product, you need to realize only what is necessary and consider everything else to be waste, because you really need to capitalize on the little resources that you do actually have.
All right. I'm sure this may be impossible for you, but could you think of a blanket term or process that would be able to help any company, large or small?
Well, I think that's a tough question, Derek, but if I had to answer it, I think that all teams of the business, whether it be marketing, accounting, HR, They all need to be on the same page in order to be successful. To help do that, I like to think of what I call the 3 A's. You need to make sure all the actions of the business are accessible, auditable, and actionable.
All right, well, thank you, Eric. Back to you, Kyle.
It's the middle of the day. You just left the library and you're in between classes and you're starving. You're in a hurry to get to your next class and don't have time to get all the way to the cafeteria. So what are you to do? Now, introducing a fast, convenient way to grab a nutritious bite to eat while you walk to your next class. Swing by Dub Dogs today on Sanford's Walk, where we're now accepting food dollars. Thank you, Derek, for that very informative interview with Eric Rise. Now we're going to cut to Sydney Payne, one of our field reporters, who is interviewing a local business owner on how he has implemented some of Eric Rise's lean startup techniques.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm at the campus of UNCW, standing with Andrew Pardue, the owner of the new and increasingly popular food vendor, Dub Dogs. Andrew, you've been quoted as saying that Eric Rice's strategies outlined in the Lean Startup was a huge key to your personal success. Can you tell us a little bit behind why you began Dub Dogs?
Yes, Sydney, thanks for asking. So I started Dub Dogs after some friends and I were talking about the food places on campus and how they're essentially on opposite ends of Chancellor's Walk, and the only thing in between are some vending machines hidden inside of some of the buildings. So I decided to start offering one of America's favorite foods, hot dogs, with a service cart attached to my bike.
From what I understand, this business has been a huge success among students. Could you give us some of the major tips from the book that you contribute to the success of Dub Dogs?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest piece of advice I got was to use the 3 A's. The 3 A's essentially mean assessing company performance through making metrics that are understood by each level of the company. For me, that meant tracking sales growth by more than just sheer volume. Yeah, I was doubling sales over the last few months, but for me, it was deciding whether I was doubling sales by increasing the frequency of current customers or adding new customers in new market segments.
So with all your success, how did you gain new customers using Eric's 3 A's, particularly accessibility?
Well, first off, I asked myself, am I a big fish growing bigger in a small pond, or am I actually expanding into bigger seas? By measuring my sales performance by greater detail than just sheer volume, I was able to decide to use loyalty rewards cards. That way, whenever customers filled out one of the surveys, they were able to get a free drink. In the process, I was able to find out that I was missing out on a large vegan market on campus. I then added a soy-based 100% vegan hot dog, which allowed me to get into that market and vastly increase my sales.
It sounds like the Lean Startup was certainly able to help you get off to a great start, just like many other startups across the country. This is Sydney Payne reporting from UNCW. Back to you, Kyle.
Oh man, it's raining cats and dogs out there.
Ah, man, is it really?
Yeah man, it's raining so hard out there.
Dang it, I got a conference in a little while.
Well, it's a good thing they put ponchos in the vending machine.
Really? Ah, you saved my life. Now I'm not going to be drenched.
Let's go.
And that's all for this segment's Teal TV. We hope you enjoyed our segment on Eric Rise and the Lean Startup. Thanks for tuning in, UNCW Seahawks. Have a great evening.